Do you guys want to introduce yourselves, please? Start with Matt. Yeah, please introduce yourself. Just let us know what you do. Meet your fellow panelists, Jay Rosenthal and Jimmy. I cannot fully pronounce Jimmy's last name. Jimmy, you can help me if you can hear me, please.
Yeah, thanks for having me. We really appreciate it. My name is Matt Lammers. I'm the international editor for Marijuana Business Daily, which is based in Denver, but I am part of the international team that's based in Canada, near Toronto.
Right on. Well, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, right on. Jay, you want to say?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. My name is Jay Rosenthal. I am the co-founder and president of the Business of Cannabis. We are a cannabis business platform. We do news, insights, events, content. And not only do we just read everything Matt says and just repeat it in a different format, but just kidding. But I'm honored to be on the same panel as Matt. Thank you for inviting me. And also based in Toronto, and for the past 7 months, specifically in my basement.
I think it's very, very similar to most of us. The geographical location no longer really matters that much. Right. Well, Jimmy has joined us. Are you better there? I can see you. Funky background. I like Jimmy's background. I'm in
Jimmy's on mute.
Some light at least. We can open this a little bit more.
I got the camera finally working.
Okay, right. You got this outdoor background. Yeah, man, that's great. Yeah. And you got a little doggy on you with you. Excellent. Yeah, man, we're good. How are you doing?
Great.
Yeah. Well, everyone else has kind of introduced themselves. Do you want to just give it a quick? You please introduce yourself to everybody. Let us know who you are. What's
up? Who's gonna go first?
No, you just you kind of missed everyone else. So please, yeah, just take it away. Sorry.
Okay. Jimmy, they call me Jimmy the Chef. I've been cultivating 25 years. I was part of writing the Marijuana Bible with Jorge Cervantes. I worked in Spain 7 years, growing with Jorge and doing research for the book. I've grown in Colombia last year, doing registered genetics, THC and CBD, working for a pharmaceutical company. I am a breeder for 25 years. I've been breeding landrace and all sorts of genetics, different cannabinoids for over 25 years. I spent the last 12 in California. I started a company, Original Breeders League, another company, Guild Cannabis and Guild Extracts, some of the first cannabis companies. I worked in Jamaica in the beginning of licensing for a year with a company called Leaf of Life in Bluefields. Right. We made a grow out there that's kind of on hold right now. The company is kind of having many issues, and we might see a chapter 2 of it, what could be exciting. But also right now we have a farm in California, in Northern California, where we do biodynamic farming with the THC and CBD. I've won a bunch of High Times Cannabis Cups for my genetics, and Emerald Cup, international cups as well. Worked on a breeding project at the University of Valencia for 0% THC, doing gene editing. Okay. Projects around the world I've been working on for a while, but that's just a little taste of it.
Right. No, I appreciate it, and I am going to have to
nice
invite
to meet
you
you guys.
Go ahead. I am going to have to invite you to come on one of our cannabis and coffee conversations because what you have done is quite interesting.
Well, that's my trade for the edible.
Sorry?
The edible, how it ties in. I'm a chef by trade.
Right.
I studied 3-star Michelin, and I've been trying to bring in throughout the process cooking with the genetics and different delivery systems and that kind of pathway.
Right on. Brilliant. Well, welcome to the panel. You're joined with Jay Rosenthal and Matt Lammers. Jay, do you want to? This is the team at the moment, so you guys mind introducing yourselves again? Do you mind? Jay,
I don't mind. Jay Rosenthal. I'm the co-founder and president of the Business of Cannabis. We are a cannabis media publication based in Toronto. We do most of our work in Canada, looking at the companies, brands, people, and trends driving the sector here. And so, no, this is an honor to be here. And Jimmy, it's an honor to be even on the same screen as you, I think.
Yeah, Matt, if you don't mind.
My name is Matt Lammers. I'm the international editor for Marijuana Business Daily, which is based in Denver. I'm based in near Toronto. Likewise, it is an honor and a pleasure to be in your company, Jay and Jimmy. Let's get this going.
All right, let's get this going. Well, we are here to discuss, I guess, effectively the marketing of ganja through our media. And I'm gonna start with you, Matt, because as I guess you are aware, we do kind of quote your work and cite your work. I do thank you for joining us. I think you're a pillar in the field. We need a couple more of you, but then I guess that will detract from
Thank
the
you.
you can get. You know, so why don't you give us an idea of, from an international perspective, what does the Jamaican industry look like from an outside perspective at this point in time?
Well, I mean, from an outside perspective, the Jamaican industry has a lot of promise and appeal. If Jamaican products, or I should say, when Jamaican products do make it to overseas markets, they will be popular, no doubt. They'll be hot sellers. There's going to be a lot of demand for them. I think that much is obvious. All you would have to do would be, but you get the good genetics, you get the good product, you put a Jamaican flag on the label, and people will buy it, guaranteed. But like we were talking about yesterday, I think it's more important for Jamaican companies to firm up their local operations before they even consider expanding overseas, because the overseas market today is very small. So if you spend a lot of your money, your capital, trying to set up a beachhead in, I don't know, Europe or anywhere, Canada, North America, anywhere really, the payoff for that investment is not gonna be very much money. So in my opinion, it would be more worthwhile for Jamaican companies to firm up their local operations, to firm up their local sales, and to make sure their business is sustainable and profitable before they expand to other markets.
Thank you for that.
I was just about to bring you in. Please, Jimmy, chime in on that one. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that's very, very wise perspective. The time I spent in Jamaica, I feel the advantages of Jamaica are they have a love for the plant. I mean, when you spend time in Jamaica, you understand that.
Can I just interject for you there? Can you just
Yes.
repeat what you did at Tree of Life? Leaf of Life, sorry.
Jamaica. Leaf of Life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your history in Jamaica. So we know. Yeah.
Okay. So I spent about 2 years working on that project. It was in Bluefields on the South Coast. I can send you guys pictures of the grow. Was looking at the ocean, sunset, just an ideal, beautiful tourist opportunity to come and experience the fields of how it's grown, have the whole herb house there. So, the food, the local food that we would, we do, obviously with the wood from the land. We had our own goats. We were doing our own manure. It was like a full experience, like a Disneyland we wanted to do. Little cabins up on the hill we wanted to do. The whole ganja experience
basically. Right on. That sounds very cool. That sounds good. So I'm giving what Matt was saying. Yeah, please comment on that, please.
Okay, so I want to comment on what Matt was saying. And so basically, they have these positive things like the history, the brand. That brand would travel. But if they go too fast and they put this brand out and they can't keep up with the brand will lose its identity and its value. And first, yes, ganja has those things, but what they don't have is the experience of cultivation on the high expert level that would compete in the international market, like a California market or something. And to compete on that level, you grow the best product, have everything dialed in, have your streamline of your workers diversity. Doing education in Jamaica, we were doing cultivation seminars and teaching, and I felt like that was the first step, is to get everybody on the level of what the competition is doing. And get the processes down, get the infrastructure down, get your whole streamline of how you're going to export, no hiccups of CLA, nothing slowing you down or leaving Jamaica is because in that and because the money was being wasted because people and they couldn't, and then the workers weren't trained, so the quality was low. And so it takes time, I think, to get all that together. And once they get that together, their house in order, I feel that would be the moment that the market could catch up with them, and there could be that international market ready for that. So getting away from tourism now because of what's going on with COVID, finding a way to harness Jamaica of what's there and doing a superb product that even Jamaicans would buy. That's the first start, I think.
Right on. Well, all right. Well,
and there's no rush.
Exactly.
Go ahead, please.
I was just gonna add to that there's no rush. When Jamaica's ready, the international market's gonna be there. So whether you're ready next year or 2025, there's probably more benefits to firm up your local before you try to compete globally would probably be a more prudent move than trying to move too quick overseas.
Right on. This is actually Jimmy and I, we were having this conversation yesterday. Do you want to comment on that? You guys just go take the conversation. Go
ahead. Yes. So yesterday we were discussing a lot of the problems that were occurring in Jamaica, besides the political bureaucracy that was slowing things down. I don't know if it was bureaucracy as much as unaware and uneducated leaders, and the people in the position of leadership were not ganja. They were people running for the money. And because of that quick grab mentality, they're not working together. And the whole thing about working together is you come up together, you share resources, you share ways of getting things into the country. It's too difficult on an island. And if everybody's going to run for themselves, like the CEOs going after the money instead of building a company, and the focus needs to be about the development of the legacy, not the quick cash grab, and getting away from even deeper the slave mentality that happened with the sugarcane there. And I feel that once there's a leadership and organization and education system and people work together and share resources, sky's the limit for Jamaica. But divided they will fall. And I think that's kind of the beginning of this like quick cash grab that everybody thinks. And I feel after the dust settles and everybody realizes this isn't an easy cash grab, and this is actually a difficult business to make money at in this competitive international market, then they're going to start realizing that, oh, we have to shift our mentality. And I think that, it's a long play for them, and it's going to take a lot longer. And as Matt was saying, the turtle does win the race. And if keep that scattered hair mentality, then you'll get there the right way, and otherwise I feel that.
If I may, I think it's what Matt is saying, what Jimmy is saying is absolutely true. There is not infinite demand, but an overhang of demand around the world for what Jamaica is and does. I think what Jimmy is saying also is critical to marry up with that expectation if there ever was to be sort of an international trade related to Jamaican product and genetics as well. And just looking at it from a Canadian perspective, where I think there would be enormous demand, is, Health Canada's compliance component is off the charts, different than everywhere else right now. And it's just, and Matt, I think it was Matt that wrote a story about how Canada's exporting and not importing, creating this real imbalance and anger, I think, in the sort of broader cannabis world, that Canada is not flooding the market, flooding the world with cannabis, but also not opening its doors to imports. And I do think that there is this ground that says is there a time, and again, I don't know what the timeline is, but is there the quality Jimmy's talking about married up with the quality assurance or the compliance that Health Canada is going to demand, plus this sort of public acknowledgement that Canada needs to open its doors to outside cannabis? Like, I think all of those things could coincide at one point. Whether that point is a year or 7 from now, I don't know. But I do think that there's long time relationships between Canada and Jamaica, and I don't think it's impossible to think about what that might look like. And I think it would be certainly exciting from a Canadian consumer perspective, but I also think from sort of a Jamaican product perspective and brand perspective that it would be really compelling to sort of think about and work towards. And that would be, I mean, I think that would be a home run for here for sure. I think it would be really compelling market for Jamaican products as well entering Canada.
Yes, I agree.
Let's do it. You and me, Jimmy.
All right. Sounds good. Yeah, I've been chipping away at it for a while. And as I said, the second chapter of Leaf of Life is going to come after the dust settles, which to me, that's what the branding is. It's
can I just jump in right there? When you said when you said it, that it might be chapter 2, I was like, oh no, because at first I heard like chapter 11. I'm like, oh no, that can't be. But then I realized you mean like in the story in the book, like chapter number 2.
In the story in the book.
Chapter 2, right? No, that's cool. Completely different type of chapter.
2.0. Yeah. We'll call it 2.0.
There you go. All right, I got you. I'm like 2.0. Like Leaf of Life. Sorry.
2.0. Leaf of Life 2.0.
Right on.
Because that was my. Luckily, I had the fortune of coming to Jamaica in the very beginning. And through that, the same thing in California. In California, I went through so much to do this here. I can't even begin, I got a crop taken in the early 2010 and, put in jail. The whole crop taken. I fought it and I won, but I still had to do jail time, and that's one thing. Then I built up to farm myself, and I got 5 farms finally. They all burned down in a town fire, the whole California fire, down to the ground. Then we rebuilt, and we did all the licensing, the hundreds of thousands of dollars they wanted to, and the county decided to vote it out and ban it. So then we had to start over again, and now finally we got grandfathered in our license, and we're rebuilding that license. So what I'm saying is Jamaica was the same thing. Seeing it from the beginning of how difficult the beginning, they say like what the pilgrims get slaughtered or something and the settlers like take over. I don't know what it is, but that saying how the first people are just getting the arrows shot at their heads, and like it's like the dust settles. And Jamaica was the same way. All these cash grab energies and all these people looking at the balance sheets. They're not looking at the project. They're not looking at the research and development, Omari, like you were saying. They're not looking at how to develop some brand. They're looking at the balance sheets on their accounting Excel sheets saying, oh my God, I'm going to make all this money. Little focus is going into nurturing the identity, nurturing the group, nurturing the project, respecting the workers, really tight, and everybody's accountable, and everybody's got the good intention of paying it forward and doing something great. Great things can happen. But if everybody's tearing each other apart, it's not going to go anywhere. And that's what happened in that company that we are working with, and unfortunately that's, I don't know, a little kind of glimpse of what I'm saying the struggles are there.
Just to add to that, like, isn't it interesting that in so many markets around the world, they all seem to start off with by making the same mistakes, the same problems, right? That you see this exact same thing played out in Canada over the last 3 years, where all these companies, they got funded to the tune of billions of dollars, and then they started
Aurora,
and
Kennedy,
they just started running before they could even crawl. They started overseas before they knew how to grow marijuana. And
yes, like we're talking about, the same model is the same thing.
Denmark too, like Denmark was supposed to have local product on their market, locally produced product in their market over a year ago, And now we're only starting to get reports now that it might be available in the next, by the end of October, over a year late. Australia is developing slowly. But what I always tell people is that, so obviously those are mistakes and you shouldn't do that. You should learn how to grow before you learn how to sell. But they're all making the same mistakes, and you really have to slow down and learn how to and crawl before you can walk.
Exactly. So apart from that, Matt, apart from learning to grow the plant first and learning to do things perfectly in a new market that has been illegal, apart from that, these new markets have not even been tested out yet or developed. What makes these companies think they can sell 1,000 hectares of CBD? You know what I'm saying? Like, wait till the market can catch up, have a sales contract with a developed thing, and then develop that amount of ganja and that amount of project. And I feel like everybody's running, just trying to do. In Oregon, it's the worst. People are growing like 10,000 acres, 30,000 acres. Like, where are you going to sell all that right now? There isn't that market yet. So it's not being developed correctly, I feel. And I feel that has to do with the way it's licensed, with a lot of stuff, and a lot of infrastructure development as well as than just the growing part. Infrastructure on the market part, as well as the infrastructure on the growing part.
I'm gonna jump in if I can. Sorry, Matt. Just once you can come back in a second. Just on what he was saying there about the marketing, about many companies producing tens of thousands of hectares of products. Mostly right now it's CBD. And I think, well, one thing that I would like to get at, has the customer asked for all of these products that the market has been flooded with? I mean, CBD for pets and cats and dogs and so on. I'm not saying that's not something that should be a thing, but I don't think that we've had the full conversation with the consumer as well. I don't think that the conversation has been had with the consumer as to what the product. I don't know. There's a disconnect between the money and the consumer and the producers. Effectively, there's a disconnect. I think the consumer is in large part left out of a lot of our conversations, I would say, in many ways.
I believe that too, but the point that I was more making was the quantities. Like when Canopy goes to another country to do all this production and build a $20 million facility, that's what we were about to do in Colombia, for instance. Build a $20 million facility, and I was fighting. I was, whoa. Like, we have to first do this, test the market, see how much we're selling. See, not just look at the balance sheet, like grow more. The market wants. So, grow more to grow more, because more means more money. No, that's not the case. Right. Not only does it dilute your other sides of the business, it puts you in a position where you have too much and you can't sell it. And in the market, it's just, and then you fall apart as a company because you're not know that. So what I'm saying is, going back to the turtle wins the race. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean, I know the other guys kind of had something to chime in there, but that's kind of what I was making a point of. People are growing.
Just to add to that, I think Canopy and Aurora would love to only build a facility for $20 million. These guys are spending $200 million on their facilities.
Exactly.
Right?
I know. And then the Aurora did that greenhouse with Kubo. It's a Netherlands company that's like a biotech company, and it was like, I don't know how much, it was like 10 million per acre, and they did like a 40-acre greenhouse that's all like, I mean, you don't have to do something that much. And why grow in Canada for your volume? When didn't even make sense. All that, they didn't test the market either.
Jimmy, you're talking.
So then it messed with.
You're talking way too much sense. I mean, the truth is, and I think you spoke to it right. Like they have that greenhouse, and it's not just Aurora. There's lots of this, both greenhouse and indoor growing here. The best way to raise capital markets money between 2017 and 2018 was to promise you were going to build a 1 million square foot greenhouse. and or 3, as the case may be, right? Because we've seen that here, and Aurora bought, I think, one facility in Ontario, which is, I don't think is a greenhouse, it's indoor, but it's like they bought it for like something like $1 billion, and are shutting it down and selling it for like 12 million. Like it's the write-downs that on Aurora balance sheet specifically, even because we know it this week, has been considerable, but only because, like, I think it was only partly we're going to fill a market with the cannabis we grow here. The other part of it is we want to raise hundreds of millions of dollars. The best way to do that is to basically build a hundreds of $1 million facility to raise $1 billion to allocate that generally. But I do think both with what's happening in Oregon, what's happening in California, what'll happen in Jamaica, what happens in new markets is that it takes a whether it takes a year or 10 to right size the growing with the market and the products. It takes time. And I fear, because this is what we've seen here, is that as the market shifts and changes, that balancing out of product and market are actually, they change all the time. I mean, imagine, Oregon wouldn't be in a challenging situation with the quantity that they're growing if they could sell it into Ohio. Right? Like, I mean, if that barrier went down, or there was interstate commerce, and by the way, I just saw a story that there's a group that's pushing for interstate commerce on cannabis in the States, that change it, like all of a sudden Oregon becomes, there's tons of places to put that quantity, across the country. It doesn't have sort of capacity internally. But like, I think there's always going to be this challenge between product being grown and market until we get to a normalized market, wherever that is in any jurisdiction. And then as jurisdictions grow, it becomes really challenging, because what is a bad balance right now in Oregon could be the perfect balance for Oregon to be a net exporter to other states, in a year from now.
But what the advantage of that way of going about it is, or the organic way, is that it weeds out the competition. So what happens is the best kind of cream of the crop rise to the top. And those are the guys who wash out, the guys that run for the gold, think, oh, we're just going to grow a bunch of ganja and make a whole bunch of money. It's like, no, you got to do it really well, because there's a new consumers market coming on. And I feel that's where it's going to be headed. Like the artisan, for instance, our property in California, where I am right now, it's at 2,800 feet. It's above the fog and pollution. It's the foothills to the Sierras. It's below the snow line. It's completely dry. It grows the best ganja on the planet, and that is going to be like a fine wine, where in Japan, it'll be sold for $500 an eighth or something in a box with a little bow on it. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like the cream of the crop is going to rise, and the others are going to wash away. And then that group will scale. And then that group will scale from a point where they've already got their processes down. They've already got their SOPs, standard operating procedures. They've already got their, how they do things. They're not just building $1 million, $10 million greenhouses because they can. They're building the right greenhouse for the right spot. I was part of designing greenhouses as well. The very beginning cannabis greenhouses. One of the first ones is actually on my property, and light deprivation automation. This was like 10 years. In Colombia, you don't want to spend $10 million because it's a great place to grow. You want to use the environment, like Jamaica. But in certain circumstances, you just need to control the environment because there's way too much humidity or heat. So what I'm getting at, where I'm at, you don't need to spend that much money because you have dry conditions, and you can moderate that with certain ways. So each area needs a specific price point or what you're going to spend on the infrastructure. You don't just say, I'm going to build the Rolls Royce because I can. If you can get away with like, a good Volkswagen that like does the trick and it just pumps out cash cow, why are you going to mess with anything else? And that's what I feel the experience brings to the table, is that these guys and the CEO, let's raise money by doing the $1 million greenhouses.
I was just about to say that's exactly I was just about to say that's what Jay was saying, and that is apparently a part of the problem. If you want to raise the money, you have to make it sound like
why they're failing, because that model doesn't work.
They're raising the money for the wrong reasons. I guess effectively is what you're suggesting.
But just because you can raise $200 million and build a $200 million greenhouse, that doesn't mean you should.
I was part of starting Mandara Pharma, this pharmaceutical cannabis company. I was on the board of directors, and we were raising a lot of money, about to do these big installations, and they were trying to do cosmetics, we were trying to do animal feed, we were trying to do the research, we're trying to do our cultivation, we're trying to do extract pub all at once. And I was always at the board meeting, no, stop, slow down, please slow down. Everybody just, what happened? The same thing as every company. They have to restructure, they have to hone in, they make mistakes. People are running for the money. And it's like the gold rush. In my town here, this is where the gold rush happened. And that's the same mentality. They have to get out of that mentality. They have to get into.
It's not going to run out. That's the thing, though. It's not going to run away.
It's not going to run out. It's a long industry. This is going to be around. This isn't going anywhere. So stop doing things the other way, you know? And then I think that we will really be an industry.
Yeah, you just described exactly how the market's going to play out in the next decade or so with the tortoise winning the race. But in terms of companies running for the money, I'll just add that, I mean, outside of the United States, I don't report on the US because we have a lot of reporters down there, but also when I talk about the international industry, I'm only talking about markets that are accessible to businesses in other countries. And you know, the United States, the way it's structured and it's illegal federally, most international companies just can't play there. They can't play in that sandbox. So when I talk about the international medical marijuana market, in terms of running for the money and running for the gold, the problem is, I mean, besides the fact they don't know how to grow marijuana, the problem is the market is so small overseas, outside of the United States.
Exactly.
All these CEOs that go on CNBC and talk about a $72 billion market, a $22 billion market, I swear to God, they're just making up these numbers. It's purely fictional. There is no $72 billion market. I mean, if you want to play, if you're a real company on the NASDAQ or on the Toronto Stock Exchange and you want to play in a legal market, then for your purposes, your market is only worth $1 billion. Canadian. That's $600 million in Canada and about $400 million outside of North America. And that's being extremely generous. It's probably much less than that. The entire European market is only worth less than $300 million, which is nothing, right? So you're talking these Canadian companies, they're building greenhouses that cost more to build than the entire market that they're hoping to service. So in terms of the pot of gold and gold rush, there isn't much gold available right now. I mean, there might be.
But what I was saying, illusion of it,
right?
You know, them playing in the illusion of it. Even if they're doing it just to get big salaries, or even like Canopy guys sold their stock. You know, they played the game. They did a stock push, and like whatever it is, there's investment money to get pieces of. So it goes down to the micron. You know, maybe not in the door. Those guys.
So it doesn't add up.
Those guys, I'm sorry, they're going to be going like mosquitoes on the wall. But the people that are going to stick around are the ones that can really do this stuff. Because I also in the pharmaceutical company have to go to these other pharma companies where they brought Monsanto breeders and they're doing the breeding program. And now around, you guys have all
Industry. Industry are
Money. So what are you making the deal for? I don't understand. Like, are you just like, what about building a company and worrying about what we're building and focusing on that?
Right.
You
So
know,
this is what Jamaican companies should be focusing on right now. They shouldn't be focusing on overseas markets at all. They should keep an eye on it. They should study it a little bit. Maybe they can do some preparatory work that doesn't require a lot of time or money, or start forming the right relationships. But in terms of if they want to be successful long term, then they should make sure they're profitable in Jamaica. And one of the reasons I say that is because Jamaica does have the ability to, Jamaica has the critical mass. They have the consumers there, they have the demand there to, that will form the basis for probably so it's not like
embrace what it is to be Jamaican. I mean, like we were saying before, especially with this tourism market, it's gonna take the biggest hit ever. So start looking at doing the best product that a Jamaican would want to smoke and spend his money on, and building up that economy.
That's what the regulators should be focused on too. And I just want to take a minute to just compliment the CLA, because in terms of the international, it's very dedicated to the industry overseas. You see, in so many countries, you don't even know how many cultivators there are. Like, we've been hounding them for years to release data. How many patients are in your market? How many greenhouses are licensed? How many companies are licensed? Until last month, we didn't even know.
So Matt, that's great about CLA doing that stuff. But honestly, working with CLA for over a year, they need to stop focusing on that shit and start focusing on getting people licenses in time.
I was
this
perfect segue. Perfect segue. What? Go ahead. Yeah.
Then more money would come in, and people would be growing. Like, your perspective is satisfying the illusion of what Jamaica is. What I'm trying to provide is the home perspective of they're slowing everybody down on many, many levels. And part of that reason is because they don't know about ganja and growing and what the rules are actually meaning for the grower. So they either need to have meetings with the growers and voice their opinions and find out why they're being held up to help them to execute licenses faster and with less problems, and make the grower want to grow and want to produce. Don't make it so hard that they give up. So if you really want to promote the industry in Jamaica, make it happen.
Right. That brings up an interesting question, because there's a lot of people talking about the CLA and the pace at which the processes they themselves have addressed it. I think that they should be making an appearance in the conference to discuss that. But in comparison to other international markets that have legalized or decriminalized ganja, how does the CLA look? I mean, look, in the U.S. is all split up between the states. The states all have their different regulations. That's a hodgepodge at best. Canada's got issues. There's a medicinal that has to be distributed to the government program. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, how does the CLA look? And are we not in a better position to perhaps move them in the right direction? And work by working with them.
I think the infrastructure is there. The infrastructure is there. They have all the capacity and they have all the potential, and they're doing everything right. But if you are a big company and you built a huge facility in Jamaica and you have to wait 6 to 8 months when your facility's built, you're losing dollars every day. Maybe you've hired a team that you're paying their wages. So all of that tanks companies. That's the problem. In countries like, in places like California, when you start the licensing process, yes, it takes time, but they don't mess with you. It runs very effectively, very quick, and they're very organized, and just like you would get in a first world country. So if they want to make that type of money, they have to realize that they have to step up in that side. And I don't know what the solution is. I think the solution is education, getting educated from, the people that they're working with, and finding out how to make the process better between them, and working together, going back to working together. Don't make this a two-side thing, like we're holding something over you, and if you don't do this, then you're not getting that. No, we want you to get the license. We want to help you to do this. So we're going to help you along the way, so that we have the traffic signs there for you. So everybody's part goes better. That's what I'm saying. Is yes, the infrastructure is there, the potential is there, but the fact that it takes so long tanks companies because they don't have money to waste.
Jimmy, do you think that do you think the CLA, like, do you think they have their heart in the right place? Do you think
I do. I think they do.
I think that's important, right?
I believe that. Well, that gives you all the potential in the world.
Right.
That means it's just a communication thing and an organization thing. It's not like a lost cause. It's right there. And as I said, they have the infrastructure, they have the platform. Now, I believe it's that push, that work together thing.
It might be that they have. I also think they have their heart in the right place. But you have the benefit of having worked with them from an industry perspective, whereas I've only worked with them from a media perspective. But from my outside perspective,
because they want to promote themselves, Matt. They would, of course, they want to look good on an article. That's the difference.
Yeah, but most of my articles are negative. So I mean, usually when I'm getting in touch with them, it's
I'm making a joke. I'm making a joke. But what I'm saying is their heart is in the right place.
Yeah.
It's just that missing link, and the missing link is that hand-to-hand communication.
I think
the work together.
I think the CLA will get there as soon as you bend their ear in the right direction, right? I think their ear is bent in the wrong direction right now. And from my outside perspective, I think they've been too focused on the international market, the international export market. And you can see that with Minister Shah, who I think has been helpful for the industry, but he building that local market.
Okay, how much export have they executed to date? How much volume of export has Jamaica exported? What, a few ounces? Have you gotten out of the country? So stop wasting your time right there. Go back home.
Bend their ear back into the local market. Like, get this market fixed first.
Yeah, but work on your house in order. Get your house in order.
And they have time to do it. They have lots of time to do it. There's no rush overseas.
It is the Ganja Bob Marley solidified. There is no other place for Ganja. It's not going anywhere. So they can always get there.
Let me jump in here real quick, because there is. I mean, I completely fully agree with the take. Just the take your time, sit up, build your foundation at home, and then you stand something to stand on to export. That's the fundamental fact of building a business. But what am I trying to ask? Right. No, but how does put it like when these like these local companies when they were from when you had your Auroras and so on were invested in Jamaica. First of all, what were they expecting of the market? Let me put it that way. 3, 4, 5 years ago, what was expected of the Jamaican market? Where are those?
You're kind of breaking up there. I'm not sure if you asked the question or not.
Yeah. No, I was just asking. Yeah, are you hearing me?
broke up.
Well, good. Yeah,
Now,
my connection was a bit of a mess, or has been. You hearing me all right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not hearing you, but I did hear you. I did see you nod. All right, so I'm just gonna go with that. All right. No, what I was asking is, well, all right, given we have these companies that have their objectives that are not maybe not conducive with the market as it's for the industry as it stands, because it's not necessarily an industry per se yet. So I want to know what were they selling out of Jamaica? What was 3 to 5 years ago? What was the image for the Jamaican industry, and how is it now deficient from that vision, as opposed to what the reality is? I guess I don't know.
Well, I think that the primary objective was to sell oil and to sell packaged flour, because the advantage of Jamaica was, for instance, in Colombia, we weren't at the time allowed to export flour, only oil. So Jamaica was able to export flour. That was an advantage.
I'd be
And the idea of
skeptical
having a
of
Jamaican
Colombian herb. Anyway.
ganja flour. So like the idea of a Jamaican packaged herb, that's like from Jamaica, like with the branding of Jamaica and the branding of that farm, looking at the ocean, and you know what I'm saying? So that was the vision. And then selling oil, high-end oils and high-end extracts, because we weren't at the time planning on doing 600 acres or something. We were doing like 10 acres,
Right.
and and we were going to do a 200 acre for oil production. That was one other project we were working on. But the one we were working on in Bluefields was high-end products with the idea of branding Jamaica. And deficient, we're not deficient. It just, as I said, has to hit the 2.0 to get rid of all the vampires and, and move on to the next stage. So it's just part of its journey. And I believe that, what Matt was saying is Jamaica is maybe in 10 years from now, maybe 5 years from now, but the dust will settle. I do feel CLA will get better at what they're doing, and I do feel their heart is in the right place. I feel that if they go back home and focus more on getting their house in order, that they're going to grow the right sustainably. It sticks, so all the same messages that we're talking about with every other market failing, everybody's doing the same cash grabs and doing the same mistakes. So following those lessons is the path to success.
Well, yeah, exactly, right? So luckily for Jamaica, almost every other country that's getting involved in this is making tons of mistakes.
We build with straw.
It's every other mistakes that Jamaica has been making, but so I think Jamaica does have lots of time to get that stuff worked out.
So you don't think that Jamaica's missing out on opportunities, because that is a prevailing thought.
Jamaica's not missing out on anything. They're not missing out on anything. Like I said, the global market is only worth $1 billion. The Canadian market is the biggest international market that's federally regulated by far, by a mile, and it's only worth 600 million. And when I say only, it sounds like a lot, but when you take that 600 mil,
sorry, go ahead.
when you take that 600 mil and you divide it up by the 300 companies that are already in Canada competing for that 600 million, there's not much left over. So it's not like, Jamaican companies are going to come here and make a mint.
Right. I think we lost Jimmy there for a second. Don't know where he went. All right. No. All right. Well, that's no problem. So, all right. So, what? All right. So, it is a long-term play. What would, if I were to want to start, like, say, if you were to be giving advice to someone who wants to set up shop in Jamaica for, what would you suggest would be the initial, well, like Jimmy was saying, establish your local market. What would say a small operation be looking at to try to get into?
You cut out there, but maybe you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. Oh yeah, you stopped moving as well. Wow.
Can you repeat the question, maybe?
Yeah, sure. I can barely remember it now. What was I asking?
It was if you were going to set up a company in Jamaica.
A small company. Right. So if you're setting up a farm operation in Jamaica, what in your mind, what would your ideal, I guess, trajectory for the company be to establish? Well, yeah. I'm not even going to interject. What would you say an optimal company would look like for between now and the next 10 years out of Jamaica?
Okay. The second part of the question cut out again, but I'll answer what I think the question was. I'll just guess. I would say just start your business in Jamaica and treat it like any other normal CPG business. So you get your niche, not your niche, but you get your business up and running, learn how to do what you want to do very well. So become an expert in cultivation, get your logistics in order, get your supply chains in order, and just grow that company organically, slowly, and do it right. And in 10 years, when there is an export market, your company will be breaking even or profitable, and you'll have something to sell overseas, and you'll be capable of producing it at scale. You'll have the logistics set up, and you'll have your supply chain set up, and you won't need those overseas sales to sustain your business because you already have sales in Jamaica. You already have a successful Jamaican company making money in Jamaica. Do you know what I mean?
But nobody thinks that Jamaica alone. Well, Jamaica, obviously, in Jamaica, you're looking at the 4+ million people tourism market. But nobody thinks that is a viable model. They don't see that's where the millions of trillions of dollars that they're seeking are. That's not their focus.
Well, I mean, I respectfully disagree. I think Jamaica is big enough for some companies, for a 2 or 3 large companies, and then a whole bunch of small ones. I think the market's there, the demand is there, the consumers are there. The tourism is going to come back. It's not going to be this year, might not be next year, but it doesn't matter because your business isn't ready this year or next year anyways, right? So get your business ready to compete in 2021, 2022. Grow it organically. Jamaica is not some small country with some tiny population. It's a pretty big island relative to other Caribbean nations. So you're not talking about some small place like Bermuda or anything, right? So you have you have a big enough market to sustain dozens of businesses, just to get them up and running, get them profitable, get them breaking even, get some M&A going, get a couple big companies, and then when you're ready, when you're scaled up, when you have your production, when your cultivation is great, then you'll be ready to compete overseas. Like I said before, right now there is no major export market to compete in anyways, so you're not missing anything. The international export market right now is so tiny. It's barely even worth talking about, but everyone wants to talk about it because they have this false impression that there's some $75 billion market, but there's not. It's a $1 billion market. And if you take Canada out, it's only about a $400 million market. So it's not that big.
Right. Let me change YouTube. Yeah, Jimmy just popped back.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Welcome back, Jimmy.
How the hell did that happen? You're not supposed to be here.
But yeah, great advice. I really do feel like they have all the potential in the world, and starting that way is going to lead to longevity. And they really have all the potential.
Yeah, let's use the sports analogy. You don't have to hit a home run; just get a base hit. Just play.
But then how does that
swing the fences every single time?
I'm interested. I'm curious because I don't think we just lost somebody. No. Yeah, I'm
small
not.
Businesses.
Well,
think about small business. You know what I would do? I would do more of one investor manages many small investments.
Exactly. Well,
That way,
that's my business
it's a
plan.
small business loan. That's the way you build up a country, is you give small business loans. Those people are more likely to pay you back. The big billion-dollar deal, those guys aren't getting their money back. I'll tell you that. Goodbye,
Right.
that group
Well,
of money.
this brings up another topic of conversation. So I mean, are we in for an island like Jamaica that has the culture and has the tourism market? Are we should we, as you kind of suggesting there, be turning down these Afria, these canopies, these these
Yes,
large,
you should be. Because
yeah.
what does money do? Money owns you. You want to be owned? You want to be a slave? Own yourselves. Be sovereign. Stop being slaves. Quick
That's
grabs. Quick grabs.
Okay,
Matt, you want to chime in
Listen,
there?
quick grabs. Because
Yeah,
quick grabs will only enslave us. Whenever we do big corporations and we take this big money, that's my biggest fear in these corporations I was working with. They're all like, let's raise more money, more money. I was like, stop raising money. I don't want to be a slave. I don't want to be owned. I want to build this organically, sustainably. Every
Sorry
time
about that.
you take big money, just like a country does, like America did with the Federal Reserve, you're owned. It's the same thing.
Well,
So build.
yeah, that's a
Truly
story for
build.
another time.
Do
Conversation.
the work. Yeah.
a
The
different
point
conference.
is,
Yeah.
Right.
it's all the same stuff.
Right. No,
Let's
understood. All right.
look at our lessons. Just like every other market failing. What is successful? Not these big corporations. They're not the successful ones.
Not the ones
The
that
ones
start.
that are successful are the small people.
So yeah, I mean, Aurora lost $3 billion this year. Billion, not million. $3 billion.
No, that's a lot of money.
That is ridiculous.
Who loses $3 billion selling cannabis? That's not.
That can feed a third world country for like a decade.
So
I was about
in
to say
terms
that. Are you
of
kidding me? That could feed quite a bit. Are you kidding me? No, that's well.
so Omari, in terms of your question on
You're
partnerships with
breaking
big
up. I'm
companies,
not.
more smaller companies do. When
This is.
you objectives align.
I'm not hearing anything.
Those guys, jeez.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah. So you need to do your due diligence on them. What's their what's their track record in acquisitions? If company
and have
A,
they lost $1 billion or
yeah,
not?
Yeah. So if they have a poor track record and they're losing money and they're losing market share in their home country, then just say no. Tell them thanks, but no thanks. There's nothing wrong with that. You know.
Yeah.
So, can I ask you guys a question about something in Jamaica? I've been following the banking problem in Jamaica for a while, and I'm just wondering what you guys think about this, because I'm not sure how much of a problem it still is. It was a problem. Is it still a major problem there? Is banking still a big issue for cannabis companies?
It has been for us. Huge problem. Very, very difficult.
Even the CLA.
That slowed down a lot of money.
Even the CLA said they couldn't get a bank account, which is pretty shocking.
No bank account whatsoever, and then even try to get one in another way, and they found out money was being used for that, and they shut it down. We've had every single banking problem in Jamaica. It's slow. It's another reason
that it's slowing down the progress because you can't get capital in the country to do infrastructure. So, and to pay people. So difficult.
Right. So what's the solution? Because that can't go on. You're never going to.
They have to work with the CLA.
Yeah, that is a fundamental problem.
The agriculture people, and they have to solve it, because if they want this
it's
industry
also the banks. It's also the
prosper,
banks themselves. The banks are very, very, very archaic, and that's you know, they're just not even willing. I mean, let's face it, the problem lies with the banks. It's because of the banks' intermediary banking arrangements that they have with the U.S. banks that creates an entire. What the hell is going on? Sorry. Yeah, I keep getting booted from my own room.
Colombia has the same problem. Colombia has the same problem.
It's a but I mean, again, even internally, it's a problem, and the only reason is because of a fear that it's going to interfere with the intermediary banking arrangement. So again, they're literally shutting down an industry, the fledgling industry that could thrive in you know, the nation in the world that one would expect it to thrive in. It's phenomenal.
But Omari,
that
is Matt Omari. That is a global problem. It is happening everywhere. It's happening in the U.S. It's happening in Colombia, in the cannabis industry in general.
Right.
Very, very difficult problem.
All right. So I mean, well, how do they handle it in in like California? Because I mean, obviously it's large. And Jesus Christ,
it's not solved yet.
I don't understand this crap. I don't even know
because it's not federally legal. It's not solved yet. It's very difficult.
Sorry. I don't know what's going on with my thing. I'm trying to.
Hey guys, I'm gonna have to go. I got another call, but I just want to say it was a pleasure talking with all you guys. I gotta go, Amari.
Okay, is it Jimmy? Sorry, yeah, your camera's off. All right, well, yo, thanks a lot for joining us. We're about an hour and a bit into it anyways. It's cool. We don't have enough people around. The live link as well is also giving some issues. Well, all the links. So we don't even have questions. So that's cool. Thank you, Jimmy. I would like to catch up with you again. Well, we have another session later on. So we'll talk, but thanks a lot for coming by.